Captain Sunita Williams, Mr. B.L. Chawla, Rajeshwari, Dr. Pillai, and all the assembled experts and guests, colleagues who've come here. We have now finally come to the last session of these 3 days of what have been very, very intense deliberations, I think covering the gamut of possible space policies, permutations, combinations. Fundamentally, the purpose of our creating this forum, the Kalpana Chawla Space Dialogues, was an effort to bring these discussions out into the public domain so that we could provide a platform where active thinking could take place, discussions take place between various stakeholders on all aspects of Indian space policy, which would then enable us to move forward. So I'll actually leave my main comments right to the end. This has been a very successful 3 days, and I'm very, very grateful, particularly to our partners who have supported us during this entire process, right up to this, the conclusion of this discussion. Now, therefore, first what I'd like to do is invite our first partner, a great support to us, Mr. CSR Murthy, Chairperson CIPOD, JNU, to tell us something about, what were the expectations, what have you thought would be the results, and where do you think we should be taking this dialogue from here? Please.
Mr. Chawla, Mr. Sunjoy Joshi, Captain Sunita Williams, Dr. Rajagopalan, distinguished dignitaries and delegates, and friends. I am very happy to be standing before you this evening as part of this valedictory deliberations at the end of what I guess very, very fruitful and productive consultations and interchanges on this very important topic of space security and policy dialogue. We are very happy as a representative of the Center for International Politics Organization and Disarmament, Jawaharlal Nehru University. I am very happy to state that it's my privilege to announce a heritage of fruitful partnership and collaboration between my center and the Observer Research Foundation, especially in promoting not only greater understanding but also exploring greater prospects of international collaboration, both bilateral, regional, and global. From the perspective, in fact, about 5 years ago, if I may recall, we had joined hands at the initiative of ORF with ORF in facilitating the first annual event on the space program, problems and prospects. I'm very happy that this follow-up conference is happening today, and I hope that this is the beginning of many more things to come of academic, technological, and other kinds, not just India, US, but also on a very broad basis. What I would like to briefly put before you for your consideration is a set of 2 or 3 thoughts. First, as a student of global governance, I would like to submit, which I notice already has been attended to in greater detail in the program, is the imperative of strengthening space security, outer space security in the era of globalization. 60s were different from the 21st century, and the space security strengthening of that has to be based on a set of transparent, equitable principles and rules forming an integral part of what we call global governance. So space-related matters have increasingly emerged as important elements of what we loosely call global governance in terms of facilitating formation, reformation, if not strengthening of existing regimes to make new rules, updated rules, and so on and so forth, especially including revamping existing institutional framework of various kinds, both formal, informal, regional, cross-regional, public, and private. I am very happy in the previous session a reference has been made in the Q&A session about the imperative of bearing in mind the aspects of PPP, private-public partnership, which is an important engagement aimed at in the processes of global governance. Second point which I would like to highlight for your consideration is the fact, since I can proudly and safely say that I am very happy to take note of the fact that unlike many other sectors of bilateral, multilateral dialogue, space is one sector where there is broadly some symmetry between traditionally advanced countries and the so-called emerging countries like India. India has been long recognized as a peer in the space technology era. Therefore, India has not only the power but also responsibility in partnering with advanced countries, but also representing the interests of the marginal actors, aspiring actors in advancing in space technology. I am referring to the South-South dynamics, not just fast diminishing North-South contradictions. Therefore, India and US, on the basis of symmetrical dialogue, have great promise in realizing the prospects of not only bilateral cooperation, but also setting the momentum for greater dynamics of multilateral, cross-regional policy concretization, and also issues like technology transfer, technical assistance, and PPPs, public-private partnership. I hope, it is my hope, that in this process of dialogue and reaching common agreements and understanding, special consideration will be paid to the needs of South Asia, Asia Pacific, and South-South processes at large. Last but not least also, I would like to add that this, just as I mentioned, that this annual dialogue will really become annual rather than once in 5 years. I am reminded about the Hague Conference system in 19th century. 1899, 1907, 1914 did not happen because thanks to the some assassination in Sarajevo and the onset of the First World War. So I hope that kind of destiny will not await this dialogue. But in our own humble way, what we thought, I'm personally interested in the use of space technology for peacekeeping operations, especially under the UN auspices in African continent, where non-state actors, warlords, are difficult to be traced and targeted. The use of technology, unmanned vehicles, and so on and so forth. So the satellite technology and access to the technology to multilateral forums is an important part, and I think in this context, advanced actors, stakeholders like India and United States have clearly greater responsibility in actively facilitating, if not collaborating. What I wanted to end with is we wanted to deepen our fledgling cooperation with ORF. ORF is our kind of intermediary in our interaction and involvement in the area of space debates, discourses. Therefore, only yesterday I am very happy to say that we were nominating one of the senior researchers here, Samir Saran, as one of the external experts to serve on research committee which meets, I must get his consent. I'm just taking the liberty of leaking this. Indians enjoy leaking secrets. So therefore, I see this as a good beginning to institutionalize the CIPOD ORF incipient collaboration. I hope that will take the space dialogue forward. With these words, may I again welcome you and thank the ORF for giving me personally and CIPOD institutional an opportunity to join this effort. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Murthy. And I'm sure that with your support and partnership, this conference will not only continue every year, you're going to see it in far bigger shape and scale in the years to come. We had very modest beginnings in the first conference which we had, the Kalpana Chawla Dialogues, and you can see the differences made over this short period. So we are, with your support, counting on making this bigger, better, and more upscale. May I now invite our second very, very core partner, Safer World Foundation, Secure World Foundation, that is Victoria Samson, to come and share her thoughts with us.
Good afternoon. My name is Victoria Samson. I'm the Washington Office Director of the Secure World Foundation. Really quickly, we are a private operating foundation that promotes cooperative solutions for space sustainability. Our vision is a secure, sustainable, and peaceful use of outer space that contributes to global stability on Earth. Our mission is that we work with stakeholders both domestically and internationally to discuss policies, laws, and actions that can help ensure the benefits of space are available over the long term, which is why we were delighted to cooperate with ORF on this conference. We think it's a fantastic way to move the discussion forward. And the reason why is that while there's a proliferation of space technologies, which has been fantastic for the human condition, these sort of technological capabilities can be dual use. As such, intent, not hardware, is going to be the primary way to signal that these technological capabilities are non-threatening, which raises a host of questions about what is needed to demonstrate responsible or non-hostile behavior on orbit. This becomes even more important when dealing with issues like active debris removal or rendezvous and proximity operations, where how you view these programs' intent depends largely on how you view the country possessing those technologies. At times, we get so caught up in the technological possibilities that we ignore even the more vexing legal, policy, and political challenges these programs pose, but what must be dealt with if we are to move over to the next stage in utilizing space. International cooperation, or at least an international approach to these shared complicated issues, can help clarify intent. We don't want misperceptions or mistrust filling in the gaps, as perceptions of space capabilities and behavior are strongly influenced by the political capabilities on the ground. So norms of behavior or a generalized agreement about what constitutes responsible use of space can help with this. This discussion, such as we've had for the past couple days of this conference, are an excellent way to work on getting together those kind of ideas of norms of behavior. So we look forward to contributing to this discussion in the future. And again, I'd like to thank ORF for hosting such a wonderful conference. Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria, and we hope to keep on seeing you again and again over the successive editions of this conference. Now, let me pass on to Sanjay Nikanti. Is he here? So, someone else from SPPI. SSPI? Who are you? Okay, Abhishek, please.
Hi, on behalf of SSPI, SSPI India, I'd like to thank ORF for organizing this space policy dialogue. We were here last year as well, not formally as SSPI because we took a really long time to register. We should also have society registration, easement kind of a discussion. How can we make it easy for nonprofits and societies to exist? So we had a good time working with Raji and her team in putting this together. We would like to thank all of you for coming from across the globe and participating in this dialogue. It's very nice to see there's so much of interest from the international community on what's happening in space policy and space law in India. Most certainly, India will take the lead in coming up with a policy which is favorable for for all of us to kind of do space business out of here. The whole objective of SSPI is to keep the discussion lively and happy. We don't want to be very serious all the time, so we would like to have more parties than dialogues. So any dialogue that we would want to have would be through the ORF Kalpana Chawla annual dialogue. But for the rest of the time, we'd like to meet in a pub or meet at a restaurant and have informal exchanges so that we build personal relationships with our colleagues in the industry rather than just talk about all the serious stuff. So thank you all of you for coming, and thank you ORF for organizing this for us, and thank you ma'am for coming all the way. You're an inspiration, and well, thank you. Have a nice evening.
I think SSPI has found the right partners in ORF for this kind of work, because our food and beverages department is stronger than our thinking department, let me tell you. So we believe in working hard but partying harder. So you've come to the right place. Now, this dialogue is named after Kalpana Chawla, and her heroism is a reminder of both, first of all, the risks, then the challenges, but also the irresistible attraction that the space endeavor holds in working for the benefit of mankind. Many are the accolades which have come Kalpana's way, so naming a conference after her is no accolade to her. I mean, someone who's had an asteroid named after her, and someone who's had the MidSat named after her, and you can count the accolades which have come her way. This conference was really, I think, we have felt honored that Mr. Chawla agreed that we name this dialogue after Kalpana. So thank you very much, sir, for allowing us to go ahead, and we want to take this on to make it a marquee event in Kalpana's name. Kalpana also represents the best in Indo-US collaboration. An Indian immigrant who flowered in the land of opportunity, who had it in her to reach to the highest pinnacle of her profession in the United States, in NASA, and in her life as well in its glory. She did both countries proud. She united India and the United States, I think, both in her achievements as well as in the grief of a tremendous loss. And that is something with India and the US share a bond very, very deep. So little wonder that her memory endures. So every year, this dialogue, in honor of her accomplishments and her sacrifice and her undaunting belief in the promise of the space endeavor, we shall continue this. The fact that she immigrated from Karnal to the US is incidental. She was more than just an Indian or an American. Astronauts are representatives of humanity, of the whole world. So it is an honor that we have this conference in the name, and a special honor that Mr. B.L. Chawla is here to be with us this afternoon. Sir, may I request you to say a few words on this occasion. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am grateful to ORF for giving me this opportunity to be here among the expert community of space science and explorations. I am not here to speak on the highly technical and very relevant topics that have already been discussed by the expert and policymaker in last 2 days. I am here to speak about my beloved daughter, Kalpana Chawla, the astronaut. She was once asked, "How do you feel on becoming the first Indian woman astronaut?" She had replied, "I do not think of first this and first that. God has given us all 2 hands and a brain, and I try to the best I can." She was very proud of being part of the international space science community. When she was asked, "How does it make you feel to have a part in something that is bringing the global community even closer?" Her reply was, "It is very gratifying and humbling, and it really is incredible to see that there are all these countries that are participating in this research. And basically, they have one goal, which is not better understand these processes and then be able to use the benefit that come out of them. It is just tremendously gratifying to have been there and be a part of the process and to help them carry out their experiment in space. You are all familiar with Kalpana's passion for space exploration. I will share with you her passion and her concern for nature and environment protections. This concerns always reflected in her personal life and personal behavior. She refused to follow the consumerist and materialist trends. In her 20 years of life in USA, she never bought a new car, saying that a second-hand car served the purpose just as well. She bought her first ever house when she got assigned for her second mission, and the landlord started putting pressure on her to vacate the house as the lease had expired. Once during my visit to meet her in USA, she returned home quite late in the evening. When I asked her the reason, she said that she had some urgent work. When I pressed her further, she said that she had gone to get her shoes repaired. I was quite surprised because I knew in USA it is more expensive to repair things than to buy new. Her argument was that her action would save an animal from being killed and also provide some income to a small entrepreneurs. She agreed to pay a higher insurance premium for her house because she refused to cut a dead tree in her yard. Her argument was that even a dead tree provided nesting space to the birds. My family and I were invited by NASA for the launch of Kalpana's second mission, STS-107. While planning our travel to USA, my eldest daughter telephoned Kalpana to ask what gift we should bring for her. Kalpana wrote back, and I am reading that mail. I have a copy of that mail with me. please send me a card that inform me of the gift, that is whether it was monetary or voluntarily work. I would like to file the card in an album, and that would be the dearest, most precious gift I would have received ever. So may I please impose that after having done so, please do not fall in the trap of buying yet another gift for me at some store. Instead, please give to the society yet again. It would please me immeasurably. Please listen to me this time, please. In her last interview with India Today magazine, she appealed to the Indian youth. Material interest are not the only guiding light. It is something that you would enjoy in the long run. Take the time to figure out how to get there. The quickest way may not be necessarily the best. Journey matters as much as the goal. Listen to the sound of nature. Take care of our fragile planet. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chawla, for those very touching memories and remembrances of the person Kalpana Chawla was, and sharing those intimate moments with us. Thank you for being here. I think being out there in space must do things to your mind, especially as far as your own position in the universe is concerned. It's such a humbling experience, just sitting out there in the vastness of the universe. And like Kalpana Chawla, Captain Sunita Williams, has continued to inspire young men and women across the world with achievements, with what she's done through these years. I mean, I struggle to wake up for my morning walk every day, but here is one person who's been on the space station, and she's on the space station, and she's running the Boston Marathon and making sure she completes it. And then she does which one? The Malibu decathlon or triathlon, and insists on completing it while she was on the space station. So that kind of spirit, that the kind of person that we have in Captain Sunita Williams, we are especially happy to have you here, thrilled to have you here in our midst for this second Kalpana Chawla dialogue, and the whole hall here is waiting to hear you. Please, Sunita.
Hard act to follow, that's for sure. Thank you so much for inviting me to ORF Kalpana Chawla Space Dialogue on Space Policy. I'm really honored to be here, especially with Kalpana's family. So thank you for that opportunity. I think the words that Mr. Chawla has mentioned, or has allowed us to open up into a little bit of the light of Kalpana, really says a lot, and it says pretty much all of what you have in front of you. So, like it was mentioned today, of course, the food and the conversation has been a lot of fun, and that's always a good part of a conference. However, there's the follow-on part, and that's the part that maybe isn't so easy all the time. And but you have a responsibility, I think, sort of like Mr. Chawla said, to live up to that dream that he pointed out, that Kalpana had, because it's interesting. I've been coming to India for a long time, and since I was a little kid, of course. And that was left a different impression on me at that point in time. It was the land of elephants and camels and beautiful animals and beautiful people and beautiful clothes, and that was my impression. Of course, really, really good food, but that's beside the point. And as I grew older, I came back a number of times with my father and my brother and sister, and got to know a little bit more about the culture and the mysteries of India, visiting many temples and different beautiful places here. And then later on, I think on the third part of my life, I've come a little bit more as an astronaut. Now that is a good and a bad thing, because it sort of limits your ability to run around the country just doing what you want to do, because there's a lot of people in this country, if you haven't noticed. And sometimes people know who you are if your face has been on a magazine and stuff like that. So it has hindered my ability to run around, but it has also opened up a lot of doors where I've got to visit and talk to a lot of kids. And going back to what I just said is your responsibility to all of those kids. They expect you to live up to Kalpana's dream. This is like when my parents are here, sorry. So they expect you to not only just have this dialogue and just have fun around the table and talk about what can be, but they actually expect you to progress on that. You know, we've talked about PPP, and right now we're in the midst of a commercial crew program with NASA, where we're partnering with the commercial companies out there to actually take on a huge responsibility to take people back to low Earth orbit from the United States. And those people on those spacecraft will not only be Americans, there'll be people from all over the world. There'll be people from all of our partner agencies right now with the International Space Station. And that will pave the way for us to continue on and build Orion spacecraft, which will then bring people from not only our partner agencies right now, but open it up to the other parts of the world, other partners who want to join in. And I have a feeling that responsibility I was talking about are those kids who are here in this country. They will want to be part of that. And that will be, that will be the responsibility of this group here and the people back in the United States to create that policy to let that happen, to live in Kalpana's dream. Thank you.
For being here, for sharing all this with these people, with all of us. It's really been great having you with us. We've now come to the end of this session, and the end of the conference. Saying goodbye is always difficult, and I hope we've all made many, many friends and are leaving this conference with at least one room full of friends whom we can count on wherever we move. And at the end of the conference, it would be the obvious thing to say that, yes, everyone realizes in India, and the message is percolating down, that outer space is no longer the realm of the esoteric. It is no longer the realm of just pure science. It's something which touches the lives of everyone. And touches the lives of everyone, right down from the completely spiritual to the completely socio-economic, materialistic, whichever way you look at it, space permeates everything. And today, the discussions that have taken place right through these 2.5 days, we've realized that space has become critical to the growth and development of economies across the world, especially emerging economies like India. Things are changing. Dr. Pillai brought about that, how things are changing in India. Some time ago, I think the Indian Meteorological Department was simply the biggest user of data which was being brought in through space applications. Today, there are a whole host of private companies playing in the field of weather data, weather services, met predictions, and even ultimately, disaster management, disaster prediction, and a whole host of other services. Look at GIS applications. The way GIS applications are going to be expanding in land use management, in the use of agricultural planning, land use mapping, and a whole host of other services. So practically, the list of public utilities, which is going to use space applications, is going to go longer day by day. And today, whether it is weather forecasting, GIS, communications, e-commerce, e-tailing, email, telemedicine, all kinds of activities are more and more going to depend upon space applications. But the issue is, and it comes out very well through the deliberations of this conference, that the longer this list grows, and this is a paradox, the longer this list grows, the greater our dependence upon space increases, the more vulnerable we feel. And that is a paradox. That vulnerability makes the security discourse very much part and parcel of any discourse, any discussion on space. In many ways, the militarization of space is the obverse side of the same coin. So it's very difficult sometimes to make these distinctions in our mind space. And that is why this dialectic, this debate between expansion and control, opening up and regulation, this very intense policy debate is going to keep on continuing. And India is still in the process of shaping most of its key policies, its core policies in the sector. And that is why it is important that these debates come out in the open. They do not just take place behind closed doors and closed rooms. They're out very much in the public domain. And we would like to extend this more just from beyond being a conference into a much more active public debate and discourse, which is out there where people can participate and start shaping and participating in a learned and informed manner, not in an uninformed manner of India's policies. I've had the chance to visit various tech conferences in various parts of the world on a whole host of sectors, from energy to policy planning to telecom to space to various things. There's one striking difference I found in the conferences taking place here and taking place abroad. Abroad, discussions are more on technologies. Discussions are more on viability, on how technologies will get absorbed, on how technologies will move into the future. In India, we're still at a stage where discussions are more on regulation, on policy, on the working environment. And this is something which you need to actively sit together and change. And I'm very, very confident that maybe 3, 4, 5 years from now, as this dialogue progresses, we are going to see this change happen. And policy items start falling in place, and the real big discussions on moving forward in this frontier take place. Thank you very much. And finally, to end this whole conference, I would request the one person who has been the heart and soul of this. You all know her. She's been interacting with you. Rajeshwari, our own star through these proceedings, who's been responsible for shaping and guiding the contours of this whole conference. So before she comes onto the stage to thank everyone, I'd like all of you to give her a big hand.
And this is to make the announcement about the Kalpana Chawla Endowment Fund. And over to you. Say your name.
Suhani.
And you're going to announce something here?
Ma'am, I'm a big fan of yours.
Okay.
I want to go to space like you.
Awesome. Wow. Fantastic.
Suhani was standing outside thinking she was not allowed inside, but she is, like all of us, and she wants to be an astronaut. She wants to, do something in space technology. And at SSPI India, we would like to set up an endowment fund to send kids like Suhani to go to NASA, to go to various space agencies, get a first-hand exposure to what science can do. And we need to inspire such children right from a tender age. And we are happy to have her. We are privileged to have Suhani come here and be part of this event. Thank you. I hope you come back next year as well.
By way of full disclosure, she is my colleague Monica Chabra's daughter, and she has been one of your greatest fans. And from the time she got to know that you're coming here, she wanted to come. She has been painting all your pictures, all kind of things. So she wanted to be a part of this. So that's it. But let me come to a very pleasant task this evening. This is a very, very final part of the 2.5-day session at the second ORF Kalpana Chawla Space Policy Dialogue. I think this policy dialogue would not have happened but for the support of a lot of different people, different organizations that have come together in this venture. First, I want to thank Mr. B.L. Chawla for being here. We met you last year, just one day before the first launch of this dialogue, and we had the perfect opportunity, and we were really delighted that you were. Thank you, sir. Absolutely. Captain Sunita Williams, absolutely pleasure to have you here. Delighted, truly delighted. Sir, thank you very much for this evening. Now let me come to, first I want to thank all the participants who have come here. Many of you have traveled long distances, and many of you have taken also the pains of taking care of your own expenses, all travel and hotel expenses. You have been easy on us, like I said, and you have been very kind, and a very special thank you to each one of you. I owe it to all of you. Thank you so much. Coming to, we had 3 initiative partners: Secure World Foundation, JNU, in particular the Center for International Politics, Organization and Disarmament, and SSPI International and the India chapter in particular. Secure World, I think we have partnered again in the past. We did a conference in 2011 where we came together. We did a 3-day conference on India's space program. It was, again, one of our successful partnerships and successful dialogues that we did at that time. But since then, we saw that there have not been too many dialogues that happened. And when we conceived the second dialogue, and actually the first dialogue itself, I reached out to Victoria, and she was all enthusiastic and excited about this dialogue. I'm very, very thankful to Victoria in particular and the Secure World Foundation for being generous with us, being a great partner in doing this dialogue. Thank you. JNU, again, has been one of our continuing partner with us. In 2011, January, when we did the first space policy conference, they were partners, the CIPOD Center, and in JNU in particular, they have been continuing partners, and I'm really thankful to Professor Murthy and the center in particular, center in general, that they have willing partners all the time, and we hope to continue this partnership into the future, into the successive dialogues in a sense. SSPI, I think that have been an important component. They were particularly important because to bring in all the different stakeholders, particularly the commercial and industrial stakeholders, I think it's been very important to have the SSPI partners. But again, here I want to thank a few key individuals who have been very, very helpful, without whose help we would not have made this a success. I want to name Narayan Prasad. I want to name Prashant Bhutani. I also want to take the name of Anjan Mitra from Casbah, who have been really very, very helpful in reaching out to everybody in a sense. Event sponsors, we have had Hughes. Again, Krishna has been particularly helpful in reaching out to various people. And Hughes, we have TMT Law Practice. Abhishek Malhotra has been, again, very helpful in reaching out to people and also funding part of the dialogue in a sense. Casbah, again, has brought in a couple of different participants to this dialogue, and also Anjan has been particularly helpful in reaching out to a large community within the establishment commercial side of things. USIBC partnered with us, and particularly yesterday we had the USIBC and ORF co-hosting the dinner panel last night. And again, it has been a successful venture, and we hope to continue this kind of partnerships into the future. Sir, ORF Director, Mr. Joshi, I think he has been, again, a very, very supportive hand to me, and without whose help, I don't think we would have reached here. So my big thank you to you, sir. ORF administration, they have been, again, so very helpful. Vijay in particular, and my IT team, Sanjay and Varun, who have been so helpful in seeing through that entire proceedings. From the logistics to IT sector, the panels are done smoothly. I think I thank you, big thank you to you all. Social media team, I had a whole lot of my young scholars, colleagues from the ORF who have been so active on the Twitter and other social media and spreading to the world what we have been debating. The Twitter world, somebody, Kasuta just came and told me, your Twitter world is full of ORF, and when he opens his Twitter page, all he can see is the ORF space. I think that's been a tremendous amount of work that has been done by some of my colleagues. A big thank you to that social media team out there from ORF. But most of all, I want to thank three of my colleagues who have been core part of my team, Arko Biswas, Vidya Sagar, and Prashant, in seeing this through. They have stood with me through and through and borne my stresses and all kind of things in the last 6 months or so. Sunita, can I ask you to gift each one of them a pen? I think that would make their day in a sense. Sure. Arko. I think that's all I have, but if I have missed out anybody, I apologize. But Dr. Pillai, thank you so much. I've been absolutely, I know you have been one of the first people who readily agreed to come, and I'm very thankful to you, sir. Thank you very much, and I thank all other participants who are here who made this a success, really. Thank you.